Jr. Here we go with Ghostbusters.
Chat, I feel like I've been muted this whole time. That's amazing. Amazing way to start the stream. Okay, so yeah, hi, how's it going? No wonder I didn't hear myself in my headphones. That event has an explanation now. How are you doing, chat? I am here. I am Irene. We are going to talk about pot and talk about Vaush. And what does Vaush think about pot? And what does pot think about? No, probably pot doesn't think about Vaush, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying, chat. We're gonna do that thing. We're gonna do that thing where Irene pretends that she's really mad about something on an issue, and then she's actually like, I kind of half agree with you, like, right? So expect that spoiler. Let's go into this mode. Yes, there we are, and we want to get chat where a chat should go.
Because it was so peaceful
oh my God.
Here, but now there are freaking communist invading radicals.
Thank you for the sub, Paranormal Playwright. That's a cool channel you got there. I'll have to check it out. Everybody else should check out that channel too. Hey, look at that. Look at that. She remembers to do it this time. Okay, so let's see. Where the fuck did I... Oh, I think there it is. Okay. Okay, we're good. We got our chat. We got our stream. We got our based Catgirl here. I mean, wait, I need to see chat too, though. That's important. There we are. Okay, so yeah, here we go. We're going to be talking about Vaush today. We're going to be talking about pot, and let's start off with the video of like, what the fuck are you talking about, Irene? I didn't see Vaush talk about pot. Well, I did? Oh, here it is. Yeah, this one.
Okay, I want to be perfectly clear about this. Wait, by the way, hold on. Wouldn't keeping Mr. Potato Head a Mister be the real male genocide? Isn't the point of his character in the Toy Story movies that he's always being, like, broken apart and kind of, like, put down upon? Me. Faradov's Yoldashev, I plan to talk about that. Thank you for the very kind $10.
Oh my God, we're going
so fast. What does Vaush
fast.
think of drugs? I think that drug addiction should be treated as a medical issue. Personally, I don't have a very positive...
So, like, good take from the beginning, you know what I mean? Like, the right thing to say. Yeah. Like, that you know, obviously it is a medical issue. That's a good thing to acknowledge, because some people don't. And Vaush is not, regardless of what people say, one of those people. Are we just on YouTube tonight? I don't know. We might go to Twitch later.
Set of beliefs about most people's relationships with drugs.
I've got a lot of content to cover, is the thing.
I think it's hypothetically possible to have good relationships with drugs, but most people I've seen honestly just come off as like addicts, even if they don't act like it. You know what I mean? Like, even
So I agree with him up till the point of like most people act like addicts. Although, wait, maybe I agree with that too. Okay, so we're going to talk later about the work of Dr. Gabor Maté, who's somebody who's studied addiction and treated a lot of people for addiction. And his definition of addiction is basically anything that you do in the pursuit of pleasure that ends up harming you, right? So this could be a behavior, this could be an attitude. Well, okay, not attitude, that's getting a little ethereal there. But you know what I mean? This could be, you know, a substance or a behavior, I guess is what I'm really trying to get at. So, and that, you know, kind of explains a lot because we do see a similarity between the way we regard behaviors that we call addictive and the way that we regard substances that are addictive, but that's the stipulation. And by that stipulation, we are all addicts. Anybody here who drinks a little too much and wakes up the next day with a slight headache, that's technically addiction. But you can also see that there's like, you know, gradations, there's levels to this, right? So like, you know, if you get a headache from alcohol or whatever, you know, like that's maybe interfering with, you know, 5 minutes of your morning, maybe more. But yeah, depending on how much of your life it affects, like, you know, it may or may not be manageable for you. There's a lot of people whose the effects that alcohol has on their life is in no way manageable. And, you know, that's when you, you know, have to deal with, you know, the question of treatment, right? Or it's when we really consider it an addiction rather than just a slight inconvenience.
Even just for like weed.
And Vaush talks about this later, you know, like they're like technically we could all be living better lives if we got enough sleep, if we took care of ourselves, if we did all the good things, you know, like put your cell phone away, I don't know, like an hour before bed, you know what I mean? There's all these little things we could do to make our lives better, and you know, we don't. I'm gonna say that where the drugs get the blame for this, I think it's a mistake. And if you look in, there was I'll try to look this up during stream chat, but like there's a piece of research regarding, well, it was on mice, right? You know, so right, you always got to remember when we're talking about mouse studies, you know, this is there's a it's not a direct line, right? But you know, it does give us some idea, I guess, and you know, they're done first on mice because, or the kinds of experiments, I guess, that are done on mice would not be allowable on human beings. So anyway, on that dark secret of NEM note, it showed that if you gave massively summarizing this, but like if you set mice up in a cage that had water on one side and morphine water on the other side, and it was a small cage, there was nothing for the mice to do, they were, you know, pretty much miserable. You know, they don't have the mouse activities that they need to fulfill their mousy little, you know, heart's desire. And as such, that morphine water looks pretty fucking good to these mice, right? They get, you know, to the point where they would rather drink the morphine water than feed themselves, right? You know, they get to the point where, you know, it matters more than like life, right? Whereas if they repeated the same experiments in a place where mice actually were able to, you know, do the normal activities that a mouse would engage in, then they would still drink from that that water thingy, right? But they wouldn't go back to it. It would just be like an occasional thing, right? And they could handle it. So then you start to ask yourself, where does addiction really come from? Is it like, does it have to do with the drugs? Does it have to do with the availability of the drugs? You know, does it have to do with a person's like moral fiber? Because, I mean, like that, there are unironically people out there who think that. And I would even say there are people of us out there who don't think that we think that, and we still kind of think that. You know, it's hard to get rid of that, like, authoritarian mindset. And, well, anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here, chat. Let's let Vaush talk. Because, right, we gotta, like, you know, shut up, Vemoid.
A lot of people are super dependent on it, and I don't know, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Not that I'm saying Vaush would say that. If there's anybody that's coming in here new and they take my Vaush bad title as like being serious, I don't really think Vaush is bad. It's a reference to a song that's making fun of people who say Vaush bad, Vaush bad. So that's, you know, that's the spirit in which it's offered. Don't anybody think that I'm like blowing up Vaush here for actually having a stance that I agree with a great part of.
I think a lot of people skip out on like self-actualization and trying to improve themselves mentally and physically just by like taking drugs, you know? If you're taking them...
Wait, so... All right, oh God. I hate this part because since I don't have Vaush here to talk to, I can't interrogate what exactly was meant by that. So I'm going to try to run over the, oh my God, I should be paying more attention to chat. Always pay attention to chat. Even if you're at chat, you should pay attention to yourself because you are worthy and valid and heckin' cool beans in my book. Capitalism won't let us. We have to work day in and day out. Yeah, that's part of the, I think that's part of the reason addiction, you know, is so prominent. You know, obviously there's also the opioid story that's the most, you know, kind of the newest addiction on the scene, I guess. We have to work day in, day out until the day we collapse on the workers' conveyor belt, whereupon we will pull you aside and replace you with another proletarian with a dream. Vaush bad. I mean, legitimately, Vaush bad. What are you talking about? We're not being ironic. No, we really... But you have to play it up somewhat, don't you? Because, like, Vaush doesn't generally prioritize somebody that's like, I pretty much agree with you, but... You know what I mean? It's like, if you want to talk to Vaush, be like, I'm a tanky. Or be like, I'm a right-winger. I'm a MAGA. I believe in MAGA. MAGA. That's how you get to talk to Vaush, and then he gets on the Discord with you, and you're like, hey, I was just kidding about the MAGA thing. What's up, dude? Yeah, it's probably very frustrating. I understand that content rules.
Because you like them, that's great and all, but if you're taking them to avoid IRL problems, then... Yeah. Stellar Win, Carmela Lopez, the...
I mean, here's where I feel like he's fallen a little bit into, like, okay, oh yeah, wait, I was talking about like the different ways that I could take what he just said. Shit. Sorry, chat, I'm a little bit caffeinated.
All right. There's a lot of good content there. It just feels weird to laugh at memes about me. Ferdiv Yoldashev, I plan to talk...
Wait, does Vaush drink sake?
Talk about that. Thank you for the very kind $10. What does Vaush think of drugs? I think that drug addiction should be treated as a medical issue. Personally, I don't have a very positive set of beliefs about most people's relationships with drugs. I think it's hypothetically possible.
I mean, I take the second part to be like, you know, the first part to be like, okay, here's my broad philosophical, moral, legal take on, you know, how drugs should be treated in society. Here's how I feel about them, you know, on a personal basis. Here's you know, kind of just like my life experience and what I've, you know.
Possible to have good relationships with drugs, but most people I've seen, honestly, just...
Weed keeps me out of a psych ward. Fight me. Vaush has indeed fomented for super capitalism. I like these inanimate YouTube streams. Intimate. Oh, intimate. Okay. I thought you said inanimate. I was like, wait a minute. Am I being too low energy?
Come off as like addicts, even if they don't act like it. You know what I mean?
Vaush is mostly sober. Hey, that's actually cool. Like, that's what I'm going to say later. Is that like, okay, look, I'm not saying, you know, you should do drugs. I'm not saying you shouldn't do drugs. I'm saying that we as human beings have lived with substances, plants mostly, that affect our consciousness. And these plants have played a great role in our development. Now, if you take the dumbass version of that and you're like, all right, so drugs good. I don't know why I did the Goofy voice, but like, you know, like, I shouldn't throw Goofy under. The Goofy did nothing wrong, chat. Goofy did nothing wrong. So if you take that, you know, sort of naive assumption that like, which people do get into, because like, you know, especially if you grow up in the US with like our drug education, you get lied to. You get lied to a lot. And because you get lied to, you start to think that the opposite of what they're telling you must be the truth. And that's an assumption. It's a dangerous assumption, right? And it's a wrong assumption, I think, in most cases. Like, right, there's a limit to like, you know, what you can sustain as far as like, you know, effects on your consciousness. I don't know. I do think it's like personal though. I do think that, you know, just like we say that a person's gender should be determined by themselves and their self-definition, I also think that like we might not understand another person's relationship with drugs. I think that, you know, like so Vaush is going to say that like, you know, they're kind of keeping you from your ideal life. They're kind of keeping you from your ideal self. And I'll say, yeah, sort of, maybe, right? That in an ideal world, you might not need that stuff, okay? But the sad fact is, we live in a world that is far from ideal. And to expect people to get to some place where, you know, they can say like, you know, I'm just doing all the good things for myself and none of the bad things, that is... It reminds me of something. It reminds me of like, you know, more various, you know, kinds of like right-wing perspectives, either the meritocracy right-wing perspective or the evangelical Christian right-wing perspective. You know, it's just this like, it's moralistic. It's actually fucking moralistic.
Like even just for...
And I shouldn't say that like that's a slam in its own. I mean, I guess if like, you know, if you need in general, I feel like we should be trying to get away from a moralism of like, you know, what you in general, I feel like we've got to start getting away from the types of moralism that set people up on, you know, essentially impossible tracks, or tracks that like only certain people will legitimately achieve, and the rest of us should feel like bad about ourselves for the rest of our lives. Now, like, I guess the converse side of this is that like everybody gets a trophy, you know, no, but we're gonna, you know, pretend that, you know, everyone's just as good at everything, but I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is I don't want to throw away the idea of moralism out of hand. You know what I mean? I don't want to like hand wave it away and just be like moralism bad. I feel obliged to give you more of a reason. I guess what I'm saying is like, you know, you look at like something like race, okay? So much of the discourse that's toxic about race has to deal with a sort of morality that seems to be shaped around keeping like white people from getting canceled. Like it feels like, honestly, I feel like people just want like, let me give me 3 simple rules that I can follow, you know, that like they're not really getting us there, but that I can just like pretend like, hey, I'm a good person now. I do the 3 things, don't at me. Like, you know, as long as I got these like 3 boxes, because they can't really, they're afraid they can't understand, like, you know, the deeper issues. And they, in some ways, I think a lot of white people are uncomfortable with the deeper issues. So if they can just take the easy route, the easy mode, and just have like 3, you know, mandates that they can follow to get them out of being under suspicion, of having the chance of somebody, you know, being upset with something that they've said or something that they've done. And that seems to be the focus, rather than, you know, getting people to the place where they want to do the right thing and that they're doing it because that's what's in their heart, which I think that it is. But because so much of our discourse is about, you know, kind of like policing people's language, for instance, I feel like there's a higher form of morality that gets stifled and suffocated by like a lower form of morality, which is the simple, you know.
Like weed, a lot of people are super dependent on it, and I don't know, it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Drugs include natural plants that you smoke, that people smoked for time immemorial, plus newly created chemicals.
I think a lot of people skip out on like self-actualization and
it's a socially created category. And in some ways, like, God, everything that we do is a drug, including activities. Like, literally, if you fucking go out right now, don't go out right now. I mean, maybe, I don't know, it depends on what time it is your part of the world, but if you go do some exercise, you know, you're going to feel different. You're going to feel probably better afterwards. And that's because of your body's like natural drugs that, like, you know, it secretes. Like, basically, drugs affect, for the most part, our neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters are also affected by other processes, such as, you know, behaviors that we engage in, such as feelings that we have, such as, you know, the kind of environment that you live in, right? So yeah, I mean, like, to the extent that Vaush is pushing back on some pretty annoying kind of status quo thinking from certain segments of the left, I agree with them. You know what I mean? Because there are some people that just, like, you know, kind of have like really naive takes on this, like, right? But in terms of actual what we're afraid of, which is like the negative effect on our cognition, we see that in people who do drugs at a young age, at a, you know, at a teen age, essentially. People who start marijuana at a teen age, you will see a cognitive decline over the years. You don't see that in people who start later. So, you know, for me, it's about kind of knowing the drug and knowing how it can harm you and knowing what it could do good for you, right? And measuring those things of, like, you know, like, okay, so marijuana might affect, like, you know, theoretically the quality of my sleep's not as good if I have to smoke marijuana to go to sleep. But if I'm in a situation where my anxiety is so bad that I won't go to sleep anyway, you see what I mean? You weigh the two things and you say, okay, you know, it seems like, you know, in this case, you know, although ideally I wouldn't need it, I don't live an ideal life, and this is going to be, you know, the best I can do right now. And we got to start forgiving each other and ourselves for saying, this is the best I can do right now. Now, remember this part, Vaush, because I don't want you to think I'm giving you, like, the simple answer that, like, you know, you've heard a million times that's probably pissing you off, that you're hearing from your Discord, which is just, like, you know, that, like, drugs good, or, you know, stop being such a moralist or whatever. Like, I think that it's always a balance. It's all in balance. Like you're weighing two things, you're weighing the positives and the negatives, you know, just like for any behavior, and trying to determine like where's the best you can, what is the best like life you can live right now. And then like in the future, yes, like what I was getting to is that like it's the best life you can do right now. Maybe concentrate and make some goals of doing better in the future, of you know, being that person that gets to bed on time, of being that person that drinks enough water, of being that person that doesn't you know, need to, I don't know, rely on coffee for energy because you're getting enough sleep during the day, right? Oh god, I'm saying that like it's, listen, here's one thing I want to make sure. Coffee is not a bad thing. Caffeine is not a bad thing. There's so many people that think that like because that's a crutch and you get like, you know, sort of all the studies have said just like coffee raises your cognitive ability. It you know, it's, there's never like I've never seen a study that's like, you know, too much coffee, having coffee at all, it's not looking, no, it's always looking real good. It's always, you look at the coffee drinkers, non-coffee drinkers, you see the coffee drinkers doing a little bit better, like on so many levels, including, I think, all-cause mortality. I'll have to check on that one. I don't want to like feed you bogus information. Anyway, chat, I have talked entirely too much.
Trying to improve themselves mentally and physically just by like taking drugs, you know?
And that would be entirely the effect of the caffeine.
If you're taking them because you like them, that's great and all. But if you're taking them to avoid IRL problems, then yeah.
That's real. But I don't think that, I don't know. Unless you're gonna offer somebody a solution, you know, to, I don't know. I mean, I get what he's saying. I never think of it as like, that's the drugs. That's because the drug is there. That's because you're using the drug. Like, and like, I feel like for the person who needs the drug or needs the, you know, we're really talking about a plant here when we're talking about pot. If that's the drug that you need in your life to make things work, I would say that's along the lines of like coffee, or, you know, definitely better for you than cigarettes or alcohol. Most things are better for you than the drugs that we don't even think of as drugs. I was present at this stream, but I want Irene's ideas too. Oh, you were in here? Nice. Moderate beer drinkers live longer. Yeah, like I would say that, you know, I think even wine is shows some stronger evidence with the potentially because of the antioxidants.
Stellar Win, Carmela Lopez, the Jika Man, and Geralt Brewing Trivia. Thank you all so much for the very kind $5.
But again, it's really personal. Like, I think there's some people that, here's what's fucked up, okay? This idea of the default person. We're coming back to it again. I hate to do it. We're gonna bring us back to the default person. This idea that we're all like in the same cookie cutter. We're all like pretty close to like the same person. We're all basically, you know, there, and that like whatever works for me, I mean, maybe it doesn't work for a few people, but it probably works for like 90% of people. And, you know, like, I don't know, this idea that like, you know, we got to have like ways of being that are like universal. I feel like, you know, if there's anything I appreciate about the American culture, it's the individualism, and you can say that that's like, you know, come to us in order to alienate us, but like the ability to sort of, you know, choose things like that of, you know, what works for you and what doesn't. Because there's just as much as like, you know, it sucks for somebody to be told that they're a piece of shit because they smoke weed. It probably also sucks to be like that friend that goes out with your friend to the bar, and then you all, you know, the bar closes and you're not ready to go home yet. So you go to somebody's house and they bring out Le Bong and they all sit around and they smoke it. And, you know, it's probably annoying to be the one person that it's like, you know what, I'm on, like Wellbutrin, right? I think Wellbutrin is counterindicated with that, right? The people that are on, some, psychiatric medicines, like, probably shouldn't be smoking weed, and then to be the one person that has to sit around and, people doing the stupid pot stuff, and you can't really partake. Like, I mean, I can feel that, and I think, it's important, for any group to, like, be sort of sensitive to, like, the needs of everybody, and to, like, not, like, I mean, it's awesome to do shit together, but if you're making somebody, miserable just to fit in, that sucks. Christian hangover, and that's funny. It comes from religion. Life ain't perfect, and we deal with that imperfection in highly personal ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the Jacob Man Mills conversation with Dylan Burns was pretty wild. Happy birthday, Carmella and Stellar Wind. That is a complicated question. I have to get off. They're not skipping out on problems, they're supplementing their frail coping mechanisms. Sometimes that only makes things worse. I know there are a lot of people who are depressed who smoke weed a lot, but smoking weed does not necessarily help with depression. In fact, for a lot of people and under a lot of circumstances.
What do you think about this, chat? Because, like, I get what he's saying, and, like, I want to kind of, like, just out of knee-jerk response, I want to agree with him. You know what I mean? It sounds right. It's like, oh yeah, you're depressed, you're not doing very much, and now you're gonna smoke a drug that, like, maybe couch locks you for a decent percentage of the day. That sounds like a bad thing. Instead you need to be going out and trying new things and getting interested in stuff and finding new ways to interact with life. Well, Wellbutrin and alcohol are not safe, but low risk with cannabis. Oh, it is? Okay. I had a friend that always told me he couldn't have cannabis because of Wellbutrin interacted with it bad. Maybe it was alcohol. But yeah, there are even conditions which are kind of counterindicated. Like there's you can have I think like schizophrenia is an example of that. I'm wondering if maybe bipolar is too, that like they do have evidence that it's like weed tends to have a bad effect on people. But so that's why I want to kind of just like emphasize that it's sort of a personal thing. Hey, I know this guy, okay? He was a war veteran. He went to like war, and he got his shit fucked up, and he got like all of his like a bunch of his vertebrae had to be like sutured to get, not sutured, but like there's like a metal rod basically in his spine, like holding his fucking spine together. Okay, so he's in a lot of pain, and I went to college with the dude. He got through college and stuff like that despite being in so much pain, and he attributes it to like cannabis use. He used a lot of cannabis for pain control, and for him it didn't seem to have those negative like drawbacks. And you might even say that he wouldn't have gotten through school if it weren't for cannabis. Now, is cannabis known for helping your memory? No, it's not ideal, but there is some degree to which you adapt to it, and if that gets you into class every day, which would be impossible otherwise, I'd say that's a win. I'm blobby.
Weed can actually exacerbate it. The things that help with depression are regulating sleep, food intake, exercise, trying to socialize, vitamin D, blah blah blah, but weed hurts with all of those things.
Okay, it's only because I know so much about health that I'm like almost like trying to steel man one of his points here. I'm not sure if I should, but like in general, I would say that weed helps more people go to sleep than people whose sleep schedule it interferes with. Like I said before, you're probably not getting the quality of sleep you would were you to go to sleep like naturally. Were you to go to sleep I mean, we're talking about a plant here, so it's not like you're doing something unnatural, but weed is nothing more than a Band-Aid. I agree. It doesn't help with my depression. It helps me get by. It helps my suicidal ideations shut up. But yeah, it's weird too, because like I think it's personal. I think that like weed might help somebody with depression depending on what they do when they smoke weed. Like if you smoke weed and you go into the, you have like a little spinning wheel in your house and you make some pottery. I don't know, just an idea of what somebody might do when they get high, right? If you got, oh my God, I knew it, dude. I hate this shit. Oh. Yeah, anyway, if you got something that like, it depends on what you do, when you're high, what it makes you do. If you go write music, if you go, like, I think that for a lot of people, the key to escaping depression might be allowing their creativity to take the wheel and show them what they're missing. Like, so when you create something, when you make something, you're allowing a part of yourself to speak that maybe you normally don't listen to. And that part of yourself has wisdom, right? Now, maybe for somebody, they're on the pottery wheel normally, but you get them on the pot and they got no desire to do that. Yeah, I mean, I guess you got to do it like on a personal basis, right? You got to kind of check it out how it is for yourself. Sleep quality is a multivariate animal, and you have to be careful describing. Oh yeah, something like a word like quality. Yeah, I should have known. That you sleep spend different stages and whatnot that are heterogeneous over personal factors. Yeah, there's probably a lot we don't understand too about sleep. When Irene is not sure, it's defo going to be a good interjection, because I've lived that reality. I worked with people who were only able to function for work because they used medical cannabis. It's absolutely necessary to teach people to abandon their judgmental attitudes.
Weed can fuck with your sleep schedule. Weed makes your eating and drinking schedules more erratic. It can prevent you from engaging in the behaviors that can be helpful.
And I just want to make sure that I'm honoring, if this is what happens to Vaush, when he smokes weed, I don't fucking blame you. You know what I mean? It sounds like for him, it's like a bad thing, or that he's known people that have problems with it. And I would kind of remind him too that there's going to be some, it's not exactly confirmation bias, but it's like, you're going to notice the people that do drugs that have problems with those drugs more than you're going to notice the people who do drugs and don't have a problem. Like, you might have friends that you don't even know they smoke weed. It's just a thing. And like, half of the time, or not half the time, but like part of the time you see them, they might be, high and
full to, yeah. You do weed before you sleep.
Did Vaush have a bad trip? God, I hope not. Destiny had an interesting trip. Chat, has anybody seen Destiny's? Like, Destiny did shrooms. He did an absurd amount of shrooms. Like, I thought I did a lot of shrooms the first time I tried them. Destiny did like 3 times as much as I did.
Sleep, don't you? Yeah, I smoke weed to help me sleep. That's true. I meant like people who smoke through the day. If you're smoking to help yourself sleep, then. But you know what? No, I'll own this, by the way. I'll own this.
And I want to point out here too that, like, okay, I get what you're saying. That like, I mean, you could even say the positive effects that we'd have are like less pronounced if you use it all day. But at the same time, I don't want to harsh the people that need that they wake up in pain and they smoke some weed and their pain is lessened, or Yeah, chat's really, and this is why, like, I'm a little bit scared about choosing this topic to challenge Vaush about, because, like, when chat's being annoying to Vaush, and I think there are some people in here that are like legitimately naive and they don't understand, you know, the legitimacy of some of the objections and some of the concerns that Vaush has, right? There probably are some naive people in this chat, right? But yeah, it's always dangerous to, like, you know what I mean? It's annoying when, like, you say something that you think is like, okay, you know, it's a reasonable take here, and chat's like, nah, you know, your whole chat like erupts, and, you know, I don't know, like, so I'm trying not to be too annoying here, because it's a fine line that I gotta walk between, you know, being too kumbaya and being too annoying, right?
100%. Yeah. I smoke weed to help me sleep. I don't need to. If I wanted to, if I was committed enough, what I would have to do is stop smoking weed, eat appropriately, get some exercise every day so my body's a little bit more regulated, and then don't take my phone into the bed with me. If I could do that, I could have better and reliable and regular sleep through discipline rather than through drug supplement.
Well, what's stopping you from doing it? And if you tell me it's like greater self-discipline, be careful, because I might actually ask you to explain what the fuck that actually means. Now, when we talk about like something like willpower, right? Science does have a way of looking at willpower. Science does have a way, and it's an interesting way too. You actually, to study willpower, you have people stick their hands under ice water and say that, listen, for every 5 seconds you leave your hands under here, you're going to get $5. Right? And so that's like, you know, that's like one of the more common metrics, as far as I understand, as far as like studying willpower. But let's be honest, we don't really know what we're saying when we say willpower. I mean, we got some sense of it, but, you know, especially if you're not a big fan of the concept of free will, like, willpower is a little dicey of a concept. And like, I don't know, I have actually a really weird and interesting and maybe inexplicable take on willpower. I believe that free will exists, but is extremely rare. And I don't think we have any way of knowing how rare. I think that there might be times where things line up in such a balanced way that maybe we really do have certain choices, just not as many as we think. There's some things that you're going to be pushed to do, like, regardless of, you know. And then there's other things that that maybe you could affect. So that's where I get to the place that you need to be in the free will question, which is to act as if free will does exist while being skeptical that it, you know, that, right, while being like having a healthy skepticism to whether it's actually going on.
And honestly, does the weed really help? I still wake
Free
up
will is subjective.
feeling like shit every morning. Doesn't really help. A lot of people feel like...
You said chat is being annoying. My paranoia can only say, oh, I'm being annoying. No. Like, if you disagree. Look, I mean, it's weird. Like, it's actually complicated what annoys... oh my god. I just saw a job opportunity for kickboxing come into my... into my email. Anyway, so yeah, no, I just meant it's annoying to him. Like, Vaush gets annoyed more than I do. I'm like a different kind of mommy than Vaush is a daddy, if that makes sense. I'm a very, very different mommy than Irish daddy.
Like shit every day. I don't think you know that's not how you're supposed to feel. You can wake up every day feeling vibrant.
Maybe.
Wait, hold on. I want to be perfectly clear. Obviously, there were extenuating circumstances, chronic pain, depression, so on and so forth.
No, I don't think it's just extenuating circumstances. I think that, like most people... God.
But to be clear, Nobody fundamentally, intrinsically, inherently needs to feel like shit every day. There are ways to deal with that. A lot of people just don't.
I mean, you've got to understand, people like Vaush and Destiny, like half of what they do is mold at chat, right? So, you know, it's probably good for content anyway to be angry at chat. Kira Yoshikage, yes. Oh my God, Tortellini, you read my mind. I wasn't even thinking that, but that was probably in the back of my mind. That was probably in my subconscious somewhere.
In self-care.
Well, okay, no. Here's where I'm going to be like, okay, if I disagreed with Vaush here, it'd be ridiculous. Yes, self-care. Fuck yeah, self-care. As much as you can afford. And I'm being realistic about that, because that is like I know, and I think if Vaush thinks about it, he knows too, that the amount of self-care you can give yourself is going to be limited by a lot of things. Hell, you might even not recognize your own worth. And that can make it almost impossible to do any self-care for, like, that's how, like, I swear to God, most of us, the reason we don't do self-care is, like, we have to be convinced that we're worth it. And society doesn't tell us that we're worth it. Society says that we are a means to other people's ends. I mean, that's literally the economic system we have, right?
That makes sense?
I'm doing the Sam Cedar thing, chat. I'll try to let's giddy up.
I can't tell how many of you are
memeing,
joking, and
no,
how many
not.
of you
They're serious. They're fucking serious.
Think this is a
dude,
bad take. Yeah.
I mean, unironically, Vaush, your chat's probably full of people. I mean, there's probably a decent amount of people who are legitimately naive about this, and maybe don't even see, you know, the issues that you're bringing up, right? That have only looked at those clouds from one side and not seen them from the other. Oh my God, Joni Mitchell.
Wait until you get older. Also,
wait until you get older, as far as, like, you know, you can feel great every day.
Even if you're like old and your back feels creaky, that doesn't mean you have to wake up feeling like shit every day.
Hey, what's up, Dopamine? How's it going?
I'm sorry. With rates of anxiety and depression skyrocketing with time, I think we need to recognize that a lot of the problems that we face in our lives are a product.
Chat is full of 14 to 16-year-olds. That's not what my audience is.
Not of inherent human conditions, but of socio.
Oh yeah, I was looking at it today. It was like, basically, what was it, like 30% 18 to 25-year-olds and 60% 25 to 35.
Circumstances, and we can address them with enough effort, you know? I do think that is
but I don't really trust YouTube's demographics on y'all. I think it gets y'all wrong.
100% the case. I'm sorry, maybe you guys are just more doomer than me, but I don't believe...
I think y'all know how to hide your, like, who you are from the... I think that, like, so many people know how to, like, obscure their, you know, data from... That it's probably a little bit silly to even place any stock in those numbers.
That human beings are biological computers that are designed to facilitate personal misery. I think that human beings are perfectly capable of being like dogs. Dogs, they get older, but they wake up, they're happy all the time. Well, most of them, because they're dumb. Little idiot brains respond positively to basically everything. They're just happy animals.
Okay.
I think humans can be happy too. I do believe that.
Wait, what is... How did we get to dogs? How did we get to the dog pill? Chat, Vaush is on the dog pill.
A lot of people just don't like engaging in self-care.
Don't like engaging in self-care? See, this is the thing. Like, if you don't like engaging in self-care, it's either because, like, maybe you don't have the time, you don't have the resources. You know, like I said, maybe you don't even realize that you're worth it. Like, there's more to it than that. And it's all, like, emotional, or even, like, if you're into that stuff, like, spiritual, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I use those terms somewhat interchangeably, just because, like, you know, there's, like, just to be inclusive to everybody's, like, cosmology or whatever, right? Because I think in some level, it doesn't matter. We know that we have an active dream life. We know that that dream life includes like gods and angels and superheroes now, and fucking yeah, I would say that that stuff is real. That stuff is real. That stuff is running your life right now. Those stories, think about that. That's your code. That's your coding. That's the information that you received from your fucking dev of like, here's what kind of program you're gonna be, right? Isn't that amazing? All the things that you hear, all the places that you happen to be, you're collecting little data everywhere, and you're like making the code, and every year your brain like just gets like shaped differently by like, you know, what kind of information you have to process. I mean, it's fucking cool, chat. The noosphere is fucking cool. Fucking base noosphere.
That makes sense? I can't tell how many of you are joking.
Why did I make him
how
so
many
small,
of you
though?
actually think this is
I guess he doesn't have to be big, but I want you to be able to see what the chat's saying, so yeah.
Wait until you get older. Also, even if you're like old and your back feels creaky, that doesn't mean you have to wake up feeling like shit every day. I'm sorry. With rates of anxiety and depression skyrocketing with time, I think we need to recognize that a lot of the problems that we face in our lives are a product not of inherent human conditions, but of socio-political circumstances, and we can address them with enough effort, you know? I do.
Socio-political circumstances, yeah. Wait, so wait. I mean, like, I agree with this, but this is kind of what gets me to, like, so instead of trying to, like, you know, make somebody feel bad about, like, you know, their wake and bake in the morning, you know, maybe like try to improve their material conditions so they don't feel the need to wake and bake, right?
I do think that is 100% the case. I'm sorry, maybe you guys are just more doomer than me.
Hey, what's up, Nerdidity?
But I don't believe that human beings are biological computers that are designed to facilitate personal misery. I think that human beings are perfectly capable of being like...
Since Vaush is super popular, has a huge community, I hope a discussion like what Nocommentchick is challenging him is going to set the stage to open his eyes on some things. I mean, yeah, I would love to start, you know, kind of a dialogue on, you know, because I feel like it's the like, I said it in a tweet, but this isn't really about weed. This is about the idea of self-discipline and, here, that's really where I differ, like, from Vaush.
Dog.
But I also want to honor the fact that, like, the reason that Vaush is able to do some of the things that he's able to do is because he's a different sort of animal than you or me. I say that out there, and you know, some of you might be, including me, might be more like Vaush than than we realize. But like that he does still have internalized somewhat of a different set of like basic values, I guess, and he kind of gets to the same place as most of the rest of us, like, you know, politically through that system. But he's definitely, you know, he's definitely on the tip of the more well, here, this is gonna suck, okay? This is gonna sound like I'm criticizing him. But it's the kind of mindset that God, how do I put this? Like, I mean, because there is like... If I say authoritarian mindset, I feel like people are going to run with that in their heads. And they're going to think that I'm saying something about Vaush that I'm definitely not saying about Vaush. Like I said, I think that he like gets to the same place politically as the rest of us. I don't think that he's like, you know, I don't have the Nazgul vortex. I don't think it's coming from here, right? Like this is not the dude for that. And if anything, he's like one of the biggest you know, champions like fighting against that, right? But yeah, like it's like a kind of cultural, social orientation that's more common in right-wingers. There we go. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah, it's a tanky. That's what I'm trying to say. He's a tanky. That's the basics of it. That's the TLDR. That's what I was trying to get out. Irene like takes 5 minutes to say like 2 words. Fuck me.
Dogs, they get older, but they wake up. They're happy all the time. Well, most of them. Because they're dumb. Little idiot brains respond positively to basically everything. They're just happy animals.
Okay, well, so I'm gonna take this as like maybe an indication that Vaush is a good, like Vaush and his family are good dog custodians, you know, dog takers care of, that you provide your dog a good environment where, you know, they feel like, you know, their needs are taken care of, that you're taking your dog to the vet, that you're feeding your dog, you know, reasonable food, that you're, you know what I mean? I'm going to take that as like that your dogs, you know, have what they need. And, you know, were you to be the person that, let's say that you live in an apartment and you work 12-hour shifts and your dogs are sitting at home just like completely lonely there for hours and hours, and you know, you know what I mean? When you start like that's like in an ideal situation, yeah, like that's what happens. But in fact, there's actually, you know what, chat, let's be real, a lot of us do take care of our dogs and they ain't happy in old age. A lot of people have to put fucking Vaush. This is the one thing I'm mad at you about, and that's going to be it, okay? This is the one thing that I'm really going to blow you up on. You're making me talk about the deaths of pets, but I got to, right? Because a lot of people, how you leave your pet isn't that you find your pet passed away. It's that you find your pet in terrible pain, and you take them to the veterinarians and hope that they can like do something, and the best that they can do is to make it easier on your friend. That's real.
I think humans can be happy too. I do believe that. A lot of things get in that way though, like wage slavery and poor medical health care. And we can fix those things systemically if we put effort into that. But also individually, there are things that we can do to improve our situations that go beyond just drug usage. If there are people who are mad at me for that perspective, then there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry.
Oh my god, I totally missed that take.
Oh god.
Must be the caffeine. I should get off the caffeine.
How many of you actually think this is a bad take? Yeah. Wait until you get older? Also, even if you're like old and your back feels creaky, that doesn't mean you have to wake up feeling like shit every day. I'm sorry. With rates of anxiety and depression skyrocketing with time, I think we need to recognize that a lot of the problems that we face in our lives are a product not of inherent human conditions, but of socio-political circumstances, and we can address them with enough effort, you know?
Demon Mo's got a really good take here. Wait. I just missed it. Fuck me.
A lot of people just don't like engaging in self-care.
Have to resist the
I can't tell how many of
temptation
you
to react to the same line from Vaush twice.
Joking, and how many of you actually think this is a bad take. Yeah. Wait until you get older. Also, even if you're like old and your back feels creaky, that doesn't mean you have to...
I mean, there's some of chat that's like, yeah, there's a decent amount of chat that's agreeing with him. Like, probably anybody that's ever been annoyed by, like, fucking listening to some weed head go off about how, like, makes him smarter and more creative and, like, you know, meanwhile, he's telling him boring stories. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of annoying cringe weed heads. And that's the one thing that I wanted to, like, I said in my tweet, like, something about, like, I gotta defend the honor of dirty-ass hippies everywhere. I also gotta cop to the fact that, like, you know, that weed people can be very annoying. Like, people that are on a drug that other people are not on are generally very annoying to those people. And I will apologize for all drug users right here, and, you know, all is forgiven.
wake up feeling like shit every
I just
day.
want to see what
I'm sorry,
Demon Mama said something that was pretty good.
With rates of anxiety and depression skyrocketing with time, I think we need to recognize that.
Don't replace self-care with drugs, but the idea of this kind of idea of purity is silly. Humans consume all kinds of stuff to survive. Yeah, the one thing drugs are known as different. Use them responsibly. Yeah, the one thing that I think that is probably a mistake is when you're just like, because the thing about drugs is it's the way we think of drugs is the drug does one thing, the thing that we want it to do, and it does nothing else. It, you know, the more we take of it, the more of that, you know, thing that it does. It's a simplistic mindset that looks to, you know, oh, not getting enough sleep, try a drug. Just tired in the morning, try a drug. And like, yeah, you know, if you're smoking weed to get to sleep and you're drinking coffee in the morning, if you want to, fucking try not doing those. If you want to. Like, if that's, you know, if you try doing that and it's fucking miserable, then maybe you don't do that, right? You know, it's like,
a lot of the problems that we face in our lives are a product not of inherent human conditions,
not user of drugs, yeah,
but of socio-political circumstances, and we can address.
Like, I don't want to completely shit on drug people, but I also want to, like, you know, acknowledge that some people do look to it as like a, you know, this is the solution for everything, and it's not. And I mean, I guess like if you're kind of in that mindset of like, you know, problem drug, you know, you might overlook something that could lifestyle-wise benefit you even more.
Them with enough effort, you know?
But I am not convinced that, like, you know, the drugs are causing problems or that aren't there already. I'm convinced that the drugs are, for the most part, like filling the gaps in people's inability to, you know, take care of themselves and to be taken care of in their life.
I do think that is 100% the case. I'm sorry, maybe you guys are just more doomer than me.
Oh yeah, the gaming streams. Oh my god, I gotta get back to the gaming streams. There's been so much chat. You have no idea. There's been so much content lately. There's been like so much, and I'm still not caught up on it. There's so much shit that like comes over the wire every day, and I get like further and further behind. I feel like I want to cover like at least, you know, just kind of certain beats, you know, and I feel like I'm not doing a great job this week.
Facilitate personal misery. I think that I
meant to do the stream last night, but I got really sick. My tummy just started hurting.
Things are perfectly capable of being like dogs. Dogs.
Oh yeah,
they get older, but they wake up. They're happy all the time. Well, most of them, because they're dumb little idiot brains. Respond positively to basically everything. They're just happy animals. I think humans can be happy too. I do believe that. A lot of things get in that.
That was a very cloudy thought. I mean, I'm here for it. I definitely have cloudy thoughts myself, and I don't think that it's like a damning flaw, but that's a cloudy ass thought, Vaush. Look at dogs. They're happy. Be like them. They're happy creatures. If a dog can do it, why can't you do it? Come on now. Look, a dog can like fucking put its tongue up its butthole, Vaush. I most certainly cannot do that. There's a lot of things a dog can do that I can't do.
Way though, like wage slavery.
I don't know why I thought of that example.
Medical health care. We can fix those things.
It's not like I'm missing out on. It's not like I constantly am. It's not something that I really. I'm like, God damn it! Why can't I be a dog?
Systemically,
lick my own butthole.
Put effort into that, but also individually.
I feel way better, actually. Yeah, I feel 100% better.
Individually, there are things that we can do to improve our situations that go beyond just drug usage. If there are people who are mad at me for that perspective, then there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry. Oh, God. Guys, can I be real? when I make a general statement about general problems and people talk about hyper-specific issues they have and ways that are like...
No, here's the deal, Vaush. Honestly, I think that the argument for what you're saying exists more in the hyper-specific cases, right? There's some people that, like, probably should not do weed. It's not, you know, most people, but there are some edge cases. There are some, like, you know, psychopathologies where it's definitely, you know, counter-indicated. But, you know, like, I don't know. Like, I think he's... Like, I think the chat's responding, but I know somebody who's got, you know, ulcerative colitis, and they're dependent on marijuana. I know somebody, actually, the data's not great on that one. I know somebody, you know, who's got, I was going to say glaucoma, actually, that's one of the ones that's underwhelming too. But yeah, like, you know, it does have somebody who's got the inability to eat enough calories to thrive. And, you know, like, there's a great example right there. It's great for, you know, conditions that cause the person to lose their appetite. It's great as an appetite restorative, right? But, you know, in general, I would say that it's, like, way less of a social harm than tobacco, than alcohol, you know, than a lot of the things that people take, you know, more for granted than they do something like marijuana. And again, I'd say it's kind of personal. Anyway, I think that, but the edge cases are on your side, Vaush, because there are, like, people that, like, and if we do go into this naively, like, I think, like, and this is what Vaush is trying to do. This is good work. This is good practice, comrade. Like, I'm not fucking blowing you up. This is good shit that he's trying to do. He's trying to warn people, because, like, a lot of people go into this shit naively. Maybe, like, a lot of his audience goes, maybe Vaush is, like, the best person for this audience, and I'm, like, the best person for this audience. I don't know. Maybe our demographics are different, but, like, you know, like, it's you know, definitely something that's not going to be good for everyone. And in the edge cases, I think that, yeah, absolutely abstaining from it might be a good thing. You know, if objectively, every time you introduce marijuana to your life, it fucks shit up, then you're probably not the person for that drug. That's probably not the drug for your person, right? It's okay.
Uncharitable to the position that I initially demonstrated, it really does make me mad. Medical requirement for marijuana.
That was a chat. Did you see what I saw? Did you see that right there? Oh my god.
I do think that is 100% the case.
Fuck me.
I'm sorry.
I should have,
maybe
like, downloaded
you guys are
this.
just more doomer than me, but I don't believe that human beings are biological computers that are designed to facilitate personal misery. I think that human beings are perfectly capable of being like dogs. Dogs.
We're having to watch the dog take again.
They wake up, they're
God
happy all
damn
the
it,
time.
Vaush. This is not your best take.
Because they're dumb.
I'm not
idiot
trying to
brains.
feature this. I'm not trying
Respond
to
positively.
rub, Vaush, I'm not trying to rub your nose in this.
To basically everything. They're just happy.
And I love dogs too.
Happy animals. I think humans
dogs
can be
are great.
Too. I do believe that. A lot of things get in that way, though.
A lot of people do feel like a misery computer, though. Honestly,
Like
paste in
wage
dog build.
slavery and poor medical health care. We can fix those things systemically if we put effort into that. But also individually, there are things that we can do to improve our situations that go beyond just drug usage. If there are people who are mad at me for that perspective, then there's nothing I can do. I'm sorry.
Okay, I saw a cut. I saw a cut.
Guys, can I be real? When I make a general statement about general problems and people talk about hyper-specific issues they have and ways that are like uncharitable to the position that I initially demonstrated.
Vaush, but consuming drugs healthily, in my opinion, is a part of being happy. We should be able to enjoy them and explore modifying our perception. That's a base take, Demon Mama. Without demonizing that, and also without catapulting into addiction.
It really does make me mad. Medical requirement for...
Right there, chat. Right there. If anybody can find me that little bit of video, I will bet you there is something interesting there. But we may never know, chat. That might be lost to the ages.
Marijuana.
So the timestamp is, it's like right around 2:20:50. If anybody, I don't know how we would rescue this from the fact that it's like, it's not on, it's probably, he probably just like, yeah, clipped something out. There's like a little feature that you can basically in your YouTube video, if you put something in there that you don't want, you can clip it out. You can't really add anything to your YouTube video after the fact, but you can, like, you know, clip stuff out. Oh, catnip tea. Well, hey, no, here's what I'm going to say, though. Like, catnip tea works because it's psychoactive. It's less psychoactive than marijuana, but it's psychoactive. So if what you're worried about is using a psychoactive substance to, you know, even like a lot of your food is psychoactive, your milk is psychoactive, chocolate is definitely psychoactive. Obviously, caffeine is psychoactive, and most herbs, not most herbs, some herbs, many herbs.
Yeah, obviously that's
like mint, even.
Fine. Like, I feel like so many people.
You gonna begrudge me my peppermint oil drop in my morning coffee, chat? I know, academic anarchist. I know it's trashy to drink coffee that way, and I also use entirely too much creamer, but what you gonna do?
Nothing. Never mind.
I don't think that chat's that mad at you, Vaush. I don't think chat. What do you think, chat? I mean, can you read it? Okay. I mean, there was some goofiness to your take, but I mean, I don't know.
Are we back?
I'm not gonna hold you to every little goofy sentence that you utter.
Here, I'll refresh 1 second.
Sometimes I get COVID brain too.
Refreshing. You want to talk about people addicted to their cancer med next? Dude, there are some people who are so defensive about their drug usage. It's unironically really fucking pathetic. Oh, God. I don't know what it is about lefties and discipline, dude. I don't know what it is with you guys. It's just so wild to me. Maybe I'm being a boomer here, but this is like when...
I don't know, Vaush. I mean, like... Maybe you can think of a time that you made a change in your behavior and just, like, think back to, like, what spurred that. Was it somebody, like, shitting on you and calling you defensive? Or was it something else? Because for me, it's definitely, like, the latter, right? It's like, I mean, that's no... I don't know. People might be different. Maybe people's motivation is different. Maybe for some people, like, negative reinforcement really helps them. But, like, I only find, chat, unironically, that negative reinforcement is only, like, functional in the bedroom, okay? For me.
14-year-olds on Twitter are too anxious to order pizza over the phone, but they also...
And I guess in that case, it's more of a positive reinforcement, isn't it?
They dream about being a revolutionary, you know, hero, you know? That's what it reminds me of a little bit, too. It's like, Jesus Christ. This is a DGG take? No, it's not a...
I mean, DGG will unironically love this shit. Yo, what is up with I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. What does DGG think of, like, okay, chat, do we have a good sense, like, does most of DGG agree with Destiny on the student loan thing? Because I could see DGG just being like, those motherfuckers owe some student loans, okay? And they don't have Destiny's money to be able to fucking hand wave it away and be like, oh, you can just pay off your loans, my dude. No, dude, it's fucking their lives up. Like, I can't imagine that there isn't a contingent of DGG that fucking malts whenever Destiny brings up the student loan shit.
Oh, God. All right, we're doing it. We're getting mad at you people. All right, I'm getting tired of this.
Nah, ban.
First of all, quit being so fucking defensive about the specific conditions by which you live your life, okay? General statements like many people abuse.
Quit being so defensive about the specific situation by which you live. Look, don't be called out by me calling you out, okay? Chat, do we have that understanding? Don't be... I'm just calling you out. Don't be called out by me calling you out. I'm just calling you out. I'm just calling you out, chat. Don't get so defensive. Come on. Chat, you know you're a bunch of lazy fucking good-for-nothing, coward-ass, bloodless, cuck soy lefties. You know you're a bunch of
drugs to avoid engaging
fucking losers that would never be able to defend their comrades in a real situation. You know what I mean? Like,
self-care.
what kind of motivation is this, Irene? What kind of motivation is this?
And there are things you can do to make yourself happy are objectively correct statements. I know many of you depressed motherfuckers don't like to believe that there's some.
I mean, like, I agree. Wait, I think I agree with some of that, what you just said. Let's go back. I think I agree with some of those things
about being a revolutionary, hero. That's what it reminds me of a little bit too. It's like, Jesus Christ, this is a DGG take. No, it's not.
Somebody's comparing him to Jocko. They're comparing him to Jocko.
Oh God! All right, we're doing it. We're getting
mad. He's super mad
at you people.
Vaush mad.
All right, I'm getting tired of this.
Vaush mad. Vaush. Even Demon Mama disagrees. No, just kidding. Vaush.
First of all, quit being
try not to dogpile. Try not to dogpile. Don't
fucking
dogpile.
Defensive about the specific conditions by which you live your life.
It does suck to get dogpiled by your own chat, honestly.
Okay, general statements like many people abuse drugs to avoid engaging in self-care, and there are.
Okay, wait. Many people abuse drugs to avoid engaging in self-care. I feel like there's an error in your thinking. I feel like you're attributing causality in the wrong direction.
Things you can do to make yourself happy are objectively correct statements.
What if responsible drug use is part of their self-care?
I know many of you depressed motherfuckers don't like to believe that there's something you can do to change your circumstance, but when you talk like that, you're unironically talking like incels. You talk like the incel forums.
Okay, so the comparison is that, like, if you say, listen, like, the best I can do is to smoke, weed to deal with my problems, and you're like a incel that's saying, I mean, I kind of think I get it. I don't know. I feel like he's not understanding depression. I feel like he doesn't really get what depression is. I mean, like, that's not to say you haven't experienced it, but... Clean up your room, unironically. I take cannabis as one of my many medications. It's not evil. That's the thing, too, is there's this weird moral thing going. This is the thing that I have the biggest problem with here, is this, like, moralistic kind of attitude about, lifestyle. Actually, unironically, degeneracy, right? It's a little bit moralistic, and that's not to say that you're a fucking a crypto bash or anything. Like my fucking VC was like calling various various other creators this afternoon. I don't know how I feel about that. I think you got to have pretty strong proof for an allegation like that.
Oh yeah, just take a shower and shave and go outside and my life can be better. Just take the black pill, bro. It's genetics. There's nothing I can do. You're unironically engaging in the exact same kind.
Stop being depressed, Fivehead.
Of counterproductive, stupid, self-hating bullshit, okay? Fucking stop.
You're unironically, like, paraphrasing Peterson.
All right? There are always things people can do to improve their lives, and we should all work towards that. Is that really such a controversial take? Is that really difficult? Is that an
And that's not to say that that doesn't make it wrong, right? Peterson's not wrong about everything. But he's coming from the wrong place. And I think you're coming from that place a little bit too. Not as much as Peterson. And that's not the comparison that I'm making. And I don't think that you're in danger of recommending an all-steak diet or any other Peterson cringe. You know, I wouldn't compare you to Peterson in any substantial way. But just in this take, it's something you two share.
Responsible position, maybe, that in a world where people are getting worse at self-care...
He went full debate, bro, says chat.
At socializing, worse at...
Weed isn't a personality. Wait, what does this mean? What does weed isn't a personality? Does that mean that, like, people think that, like, they'll be more interesting by smoking weed or something? Is that what the weed isn't a personality thing means? Slay the dragon of chaos. Yes, Vaush Daddy, Pepe Lad V. This is a perfect point to challenge Vaush on, because he's acting like people don't want to do this or refuse to do it. Yeah, and I would say that it's more complicated than that. Like, we could talk about the trans theoretical model of behavioral change, right? If we really want to talk about, like, how actual behavioral change occurs, rather than just, like, the idea of, like, don't be so depressed, Fivehead, which doesn't work. You know, like, so people have broken it down into steps, you know, of, like, you know, are you thinking about, do you know that you got a problem? Okay, good. That's one step. Do you want to do something about that problem? Theoretically, at least? Yeah, that's another step, okay? Do you want to maybe make a plan to do something about that, you know? There's a big step. You've got a plan now. Do you want to put that plan into action? There's a really big step. And then do you want to check in and ask yourself, how's my plan going? Am I getting to where I want to be? Do I need to adjust anything? Is everything working right? You know? And then if you fall off the horse, you know, if you go back to whatever behavior you're trying to get away from, or you're not doing the behavior that you want to engage in, then, you know, a way to reappraise from there and not, like, give up just because shit didn't work out the right time. That is complicated. That is individualized, you know, to where somebody's at on that continuum. And I think each of those people in that different state of change, they need to hear a different thing. And although I know that your tough love comes from a place of love, comes from a place of caring, and comes from a place of wanting people to be happy, like those dogs, it's still, for somebody that's low on that order of things, like that actually is just as likely to push them off the carousel as it is to encourage them to hop on. It's a sad fact. The same amount of people that you're going to inspire, you know, much like, I mean, Jocko inspires people, Peterson inspires people, like these, they use the same kind of, you know, tactics of, like, hey, get off your ass, you know, like, this isn't a dress rehearsal for life. And that's maybe what some people need to hear. But for just as many people, it comes across as an attack, and you're saying, don't be defensive. What the fuck? I mean, they are defensive because they hurt dog hollers, Vaush. They can't help it. Like, right? You're doing your attempt to get through to them, and that's how they're responding. Just like, you know, just like people expect you to engage in praxis against right-wingers in certain ways that you would say doesn't quite work, right? You've tried those ideas. You know, you've tried the just like, hey, stop saying the slurs. No, stop doing. You're a bad person. You're going to say the thing. Are you going to say the thing? You're a bad person. You know, no, fuck you. There's no coming. Like, right? You know, like, I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to make a parallel to, like, you know, kind of Vaush's, like, streaming career and his, you know, not being a purist when it comes to engaging with people where they're at. That's all I'm asking you to recognize, Vaush, is that, like, we got to engage with people where they're at, not at where we'd like them to be in a perfect world. Leave that shit for Professor Pangloss, right, Vaush?
Almost everything regarding taking care of themselves, with suicidality increasing, with depression increasing, with ADHD increasing, that maybe it's perhaps an irresponsible take to say that there's nothing you can do. Oh, I'm just depressed. I need this. You're the ones engaging in irresponsible rhetoric, both to yourself and to the people around you, okay?
I mean, if what they're saying is just like, fucking give up black pill, but like, I don't think you're hearing people. Like, if anybody is saying that, then yeah, they're fucking wrong. Yeah, I'm sure like there's always a some percentage of people saying everything, right? But
nothing hurts the cause for better mental health collectively, socially, than people laboring around like fucking zombies, shitting on everyone who says it's possible to act in a way that improves your life, okay? You're the ones who are making it hard to address these issues.
You're both making it hard to address the issues, Vaush. In fact, I would say, buddy, that you're both two sides of the same coin in making it hard for people to address these issues. But I would also say that both of you have your hearts in the right places. And let's take a moment to step back and recognize that we're all fighting for the same cause. Nobody here is an asshole. Nobody's trying to hold anybody down. Nobody's trying to delay anybody, slow anybody's progress, keep them miserable. That's not your intention. That's not the intentions of the people arguing with you, okay? You know, you're both valid. You're both heckin' good beans, okay? And no beans are allowed to be edgier than me, so let's get back to the Vaush. Vaude.
That feeling Vaush completely doesn't understand mental health. I understand mental health better than you do. Because if you ever...
The chat's going kind of hard on him.
Ever talk to a...
I don't know if this helps, chat. I don't know if this is helping Vaush.
Like,
look, he's on his theoretical, you know, like as far as like, is he going to do some behavior change and approach this in a different way? I don't know. Maybe not with people fucking blowing him up like this.
First thing you're going to learn about any kind of depression treatment is that the
can somebody de-escalate? Come on.
Best thing you can do is...
Where's the book smarts?
Regulate your sleep schedule.
Just kidding.
Regulate your eat intake, regulate what you drink, get a little bit of exercise, and spend some time outside.
Okay, you just made some shit sound so simple that virtually no one has figured out. How many people eat the right amount of food? How many people got that figured out? How many people eat the right kind of food? How many people eat the food that they know is best for them?
Day. I know more than you.
His mental health takes are kind of yikes, to be honest. Yeah, but you know, we all got to start from somewhere, right?
Okay? That is number one advice that works for pretty much any range of depressive
streamers are imploding. What?
To some extent or another. Does it fix it totally? No.
This is one of Vaush's unexamined biases. Well, yeah, we definitely all have unexamined biases. Why is he equating weed with giving up and not being productive? He's saying, I guess that when he hears people say that for some, you know, even though like ideally, you know, maybe there's like other thing in the best world with unlimited resources where everything is fine and dandy and we don't have this fucking giant like capitalist state pressing down on everyone, then, you know, you could live a better life without the crutch that you're using. You could do this and that instead. You know, you could optimize your sleeping schedule and optimize your eating, and you could, like, you know what I mean, get the exact right amount of exercise every day. And like, you know, it just like, I hate to break it to you, but there's not many of us that like really are there. This isn't something that everybody can have. And that, like, you know, we got a few stragglers and we're trying to help them along the way, but these goddamn fucking, you know, I don't know, these you know, these everybody gets a like participation trophy people are getting in our way and saying, don't be so mean to them, when all we need to do to get them to where we're at is be a little bit mean to them. And it's like, that's wrong. That's objectively wrong.
Can depression just be bootstrapped out of? No, nobody said that. Psychology has advanced as a field quite a bit in the past few hundred years, and you should all take full advantage of...
Oh, okay, so the solution is drugs. Okay, I get it. Just not the fun ones. Wow, okay.
Psychiatry and prescription medications which are helpful in alleviating mental conditions. I take lithium bicarbonate. for my bipolar disorder.
Okay, now Vaush, this is a good solution for a lot of people. A lot of people find, you know, what they need from getting treated by a psychiatrist. But not everyone. And in fact, like, you know, we're talking about treatment of depression. I don't think we're actually looking that good. Like, it does work for a lot of people, and I don't want to take that away. And, you know, if you know, you're getting good treatment for your depression from a psychiatrist, you know, with, you know, whatever strategy you've devised to do that, good for you, like, right? But it's not as simple as that. You know, getting on the medication is difficult. Getting off the medication is difficult. Finding the right medication can be really difficult. And it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. But and there's also like a weird thing that's going on here where it's like, you know, like, stop using the drug, get on the drugs. They're not equivalent. They're not equivalent. And yeah, you're probably going to do better taking a drug recommended to you by a psychiatrist than you are just being like, you know, okay, marijuana, this THC, this is the one that's going to fix everything. Like, no, it's not a fix-all. It doesn't work for everybody. For some people, it might make a lot of things worse. You know, let's say you have trouble remembering things, right? Maybe marijuana is not the drug for you, right? You know, there's a lot of people that, like, it might not be ideal for. There's a lot of people that lithium, Vaush, I hate to tell you this, but you're taking a drug, and you know this, that has very difficult to manage side effects. If that's what your care team has found is the best solution for you, and you find that it works and it's good and everything, awesome. But like, that's kind of a last ditch, you know, that's not a drug of like first choice, right? If you can treat something in a way without lithium, because chat, like, we're talking about like the way that your kidneys function and stuff like that gets affected by lithium. Lithium's a hard drug to take, and it changes your whole life to do that. But for some people, it's given them back a life that they felt was completely out of control. Like, if you read actually people's experiences with bipolar, god damn, it's way rougher than I realized before I took a class on it.
Order, okay? But I'm not gonna take it and then go like, I just need the drug. There's nothing I can do. I know there are things that I can do.
Oh, okay. So he's not saying that. He's not saying don't do the drugs, just do the drugs. He's saying that, like, wait, what is he saying?
Actively know that I feel better after I clean up my room a little bit. And there's no reason why I couldn't have done it a week prior. It was my lack of discipline. And I did clean the room, and then I feel better.
Wait, I mean, like, there literally was a reason. Okay, here's what I'm going to ask. I don't want you to think that I'm trying to push you into a place of, like, black pill or giving up or, you know, like, I don't know. If you think that believing in free will is, like, a strength, then, you know, I don't want to take that strength away from you, right? But I do want to challenge this notion that you could have done what you didn't do. I mean, if you had an intention to do something and it didn't get it done, is it possible that there's a reason that you're not recognizing that you couldn't do it? Like, do people that struggle with chronic disorders and disabilities often talk about spoons, and the metaphor of spoons is like, I have a certain number of spoons, I have a certain amount of spoons, and when I run out of those spoons, even if I made plans to do XYZ with you, even if whatever, like if I run out of spoons, I run out of spoons, and I really gotta I don't have any more, and I literally don't fucking have any more energy. That's a way to communicate it, because like a lot of the world does not get that, there's people that are at their kind of ends of like just how much fucking energy, and that dealing with intractable problems. So I won't say intractable, because like nothing's never give up, right? But like hard to manage, and issues without obvious solutions. But yeah, I mean, like they say that because like literally if they get into that situation and they never know, they think they have this much spoons, and it turns out like, well, I didn't actually, I ran out, right? And if you run out, you run out. So I don't know. I mean, that might sound like, I'm sure this sounds doomer to Vaush. I'm not trying to be doomer. I'm not trying to tell people, to give up, or to this is just your lot in life. Like far be it from me to say that. In fact, I would say that if you believe that this is your lot in life, you'll have a objectively worse life. Even if self-determinacy's hard, even if it's like a moonshot, it's still worth going for.
That's good. We should celebrate that. Jordan B. Peterson's most long-lasting negative effect in the world isn't going to be all the fucking people he radicalized into Christian conservatism. It's going to be all the lefties who, through reverse psychology, he convinced to not take care of their fucking selves. Okay? Jesus.
I would say that the trick with Peterson's psychology is that like you end up coming to some of the same conclusions that he did, the obvious stuff. Like, let's be real, okay? Like, this is Oprah shit. The shit that, like, the self-care stuff, like, the self-care that Jordan Peterson is giving you, it is just the basic industry standard. There's nothing, like, he's not selling you anything. Like, he might as well have just, like, scraped, like, lint out of his pockets and sold it to you as, like, magical, like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's just like the lowest level of shit that's around. It's just your basic bitch. Like, anybody would give you this shit. Anybody would give you this advice. It's the most obvious shit in the world. So let's not suck his dick too hard for doing that. That being said, this was stuff that people had probably heard from their mom, heard from their teacher, heard from all these femoids. And then all of a sudden when a man says it, it's like, oh yes, clean up your room. Okay, now I can go do it. It kind of makes you wonder.
Cleaning up my house? What are you, some kind of conservative?
No, that's a straw man.
Jesus Christ. Like this.
There's nothing culturally nationalist about cleaning your room, Chad. Let me, in case anybody's thinking I'm endorsing that viewpoint, I'll cut you off at the pass.
It's like a conservative straw man. You guys do know that you have to put in work to self-care, right?
No, I mean, like, that literally was... What? Oh, he's saying that they're behaving like a straw man. I mean, the fact that you're seeing your audience as conservative straw man, I don't know. I don't know what that... I don't know how much of that you can put back on your audience, let's just say.
That self-care is work? That's why it's hard. You know that, right? You actually have bipolar disorder? No, I take lithium bicarbonate every day of my life for fun. You know that, right?
I mean, you got to grow an
now
audience,
we're all cooped up in our
dude.
house because of COVID-19. It's become really hard to have a routine and be just
Yeah,
it's super hard.
I always have to
I never
repeat
said
things.
it's not hard, but it's still worth doing.
For when your audience is growing, you tend to have to repeat things.
Into what I'm saying. I never said you can bootstrap
you
your way
all
out of
don't
depression.
know
Some people
a
heard
lot
that. I
of the
never
old
ever said
lore.
that or believed that. Some people
In
are
fact,
saying
most
that
of
I
you
think
probably
it's
don't know
easy
shit
to
that
use.
went
No,
down
it's the
this
hardest thing in the
summer.
world.
Like, even...
I mean, I'm interspersing my recommendations here with admittance that I have trouble with this too. What else besides that could possibly be
Well,
a greater
I mean,
admittance
listen,
that it's difficult to do?
The thing that's good about that,
Yeah,
Vaush,
simple but
the
not
thing that,
easy.
and I like doing that too. I like using myself as an example. I like showing myself to be imperfect. I like copying to the things that I like am coming short on. But like the reason that I do that is to keep myself from getting on a high horse. That's part of the objective, Vaush, is to stay off that high horse, right? Because, you know, I mean, as good as it feels to ride that thing, you don't look nearly as cool as you think you do. You don't look nearly as cool as you think you do on that high horse.
Maybe don't say they're acting like incels, though. Nah, when people are unironically blackpilling...
In fact, I don't want to scare you, Vaush, but riding on a high horse, I mean, sometimes it makes you look a little cringe.
In chat,
I don't mean you personally. I mean the rhetorical you. Of course, Vaush, I'm talking about the rhetorical you.
Oh, that's incel logic right there. There's nothing we can do to fix it. Life just sucks. Like, no, that's similar behavior to the incel forums. Sorry. Vaush, did you know there are...
I mean that... I don't like that. The people that feel called out about this, like, a lot of them are disabled people. A lot of them are people that deal with, like, monumental challenges. And I get why you're saying the incel thing, that you don't want anybody to give up hope, that you don't want anybody to make the assumption that they're stuck where they're at, right? And that there's no, you know, you like, and you're right about that, absolutely. You know, nobody should take any kind of black pills, fuck that shit, right? You know, never give up hope, right? But I don't think that's what disability support groups do. I don't think they just sit and reinforce homelessness. I don't think they reinforce helplessness. Like, I don't think they reinforce, like, negative perceptions and, like, right? I think that for a lot of people, those disability support groups are a way to talk about your life experience with people that might actually understand what you're talking about, rather than a bunch of ableds who are gonna, and I'll say accidentally, through no moral failings of their own, end up shitting on you like Vaush is doing here. Fucking ableds, I can't take you anywhere.
There are places in the USA where lithium occurs naturally in groundwater and they have lower suicide rates. Interesting. Huh. I actually didn't know that. Yeah, talking about discipline and self-care with terminally online people is never going to work.
He has some weird takes about autism spectrum disorder being considered a disability for some people. Some of the things, yeah, I mean, like said during the Shia drama sounded ableist to me. Oh, and that Shia drama was kind of like about like ableism on Shia's part. Imagine you've got to stack spoons when you wake up. These are resources that you have to expend to take actions. Yeah. But like, Cora, isn't it even like you might think that you have 30 spoons and you get to like, you use 24 spoons and you look and you've got one left. Do you know what I mean? It's like, from what I understand, like it's even hard to gauge like how much, you do have to try to measure things so that you'll know, like, okay, how much energy do I have? How much energy will I have today? And what are the things that I have to prioritize? Because I might not be able to get it all done. The trick is that you can break it down and represent how much energy and resources that, oh, okay. So it's like a tool for that, for conceiving of that. But yeah, like it's a way to quantify and weigh our daily lives, the stress that our daily lives put on us, or the energy required, maybe. I've been in some that do reinforce learned helplessness to some extent, but that's close. That's close, not the majority or their function. You want to get to work? That'll be 2 spoons. You want to come home from work to cook dinner? That'll be 4 spoons. Spoons, yeah, and then spoons to deal with a tough discussion. Yeah, and then you get into the situation where you're like, all right, I gotta go across town on the bus. I thought I had 25 spoons. It turns out I had 24 spoons. Now I'm coming back home on the bus and I'm so fucking tired that I fall asleep and I go right past my stop, and now I'm in a really bad way, like just all kinds of shit like that you know, people have to deal with, that like, you know, like it's easy for us to take it for granted, right? Like I'm in that camp of like, you know, maybe not understanding what kind of limitations some people like deal with, and I do have a tendency to be like a little bit like, well, why don't you just, you know, XYZ five head. But not only do you borrow spoons from Tomorrow's Stack, making oh yeah, it's like their major interest on the spoon loans. The spoon loans are very expensive. If you use more spoons than you have, holy shit, you're gonna be paying for that for the rest of your life, practically, it feels like.
Because everyone just thinks that I'm acting like some sort of drill sergeant who's saying that
No, I mean, if you're being a drill sergeant to anyone, Vaush, it's probably to yourself first and foremost.
depression
Like,
is
I don't
nothing.
think you're doing it through any kind of like, you know, callousness. You're obviously like a very loving guy.
You just need to work hard, bootstraps. But I'm not saying that. People hear that because they're defensive, but I'm not saying that. I'm saying the opposite of that.
You are minimizing like people's struggle, but I don't think it's through any sort of like malice.
Just curious, do you think therapy works? It can, yeah, it can work for sure. Yeah. Therapy can help with some things. Medication helps with others.
People keep on posting Jocko with the Omega lol.
Medication can help with hormonal imbalances. Therapy seems to work best
It's not
with
wrong.
trauma. Trauma seems to be a
It's more about understanding that some conditions mean that, yeah, okay, so that you've got a higher spoon cost than other people.
thing that therapy is very specifically good at addressing, though it can help with other things too. Not just that, but that seems to be a thing that it works well on. But hey, even if you're getting therapy, guess what? Discipline is also going to be a part of that regimen. It's always going to be the case. It's going to be the case with everything. What do you think people who go to addiction counseling get? You think they just like...
Funny you should ask, Vaush, because we're about to watch a video talk by Dr. Gabor Maté, who's an addiction specialist who's actually been quite successful in moving a lot of people from a state of being addicted to a state of, if nothing else, like living a better life. And yes, you know, moving them past addiction in a lot of cases. This chat is based. Spoon interest rate is ridiculously high. Usually you're doing great and everyone else is suffering. It's the environment. It's not that you're a better human being. Yeah, no, base chat for sure. Base chat. What the fuck was I just getting to? Oh my god. I got distracted. Chat, what the fuck was I just talking about?
Hey, take these drugs, then go home, live your life. No. Self-betterment is a difficult process. What's that quote? To self-improve is to suffer because man is...
Sounds like no pain, no gain. Unironically, hey, look, if you don't know this, what does Irene do outside of streaming? I'm a kickboxing instructor, okay? I'm a personal trainer. I push people, you know, past their limits. Like I do this stuff. Like I know how this works, right? Some people maybe do need the drill instructor, you know, kind of personality to push them. That's not usually who I am. With certain people, right? But for the most part, like I find that that's not actually what motivates people. the first and foremost thing is that you got to understand where they're at. You got to meet them where they're at and not try to impose like a one size fits all solution. I think that might be what people are getting mad at you for more than anything else, is just not being open to understanding. And he does understand that, like, you know, he has, you know, nodded towards the fact that people tend to be dealing with different shit. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a little self-understanding would really, you know, and a little, like, self-forgiveness. I don't know. I hope it doesn't sound too beta, Vaush. I know you're not into that beta shit, but...
Both sculptor and sculpture.
I don't know. You could call it Sigma. Listen, like, I know you don't want to do that beta shit, but, you know, you can always flip from alpha to sigma, because a sigma exists outside of the social hierarchy. And as such, you would be afforded a greater latitude in terms of maybe actually like taking care of yourself and, you know, not having to, not always having to be so hard on yourself. I'm kind of kidding with the I'm kind of kidding with the Sigma thing.
Changing yourself is a difficult and painful process.
The no pain, no gain thing. Yeah, yeah. This is like a common misperception in exercise, especially in nutrition and like health, right? That like, you know, the thing that's going to get you to where you want to go is going to be the thing that hurts like hell and it's torture. I'll tell you what, there's a lot of things that feel like torture that aren't going to get you to where you want to go. Sadly, sad to say, but it's true. You can embark on a lot of like torturous training regimens that won't fucking work. That's not hard. What's hard is finding something that actually does work. What's hard is finding something that realistically does fit into your life. What's hard is finding something that you're not going to do just like one day when you're really, really motivated and you're like, yeah, I want to change my life. And then you forget about it and then don't do it. Don't come back and, you know, you don't do any of the subsequent workouts. What you need is something that you're going to be able to do. It's going to push you a little bit. It's going to push you further than you thought you could go. But then next time you come back and you do a little bit more. And next time you come back and you do a little bit more, right? That doesn't come from just like me being a drill instructor from people. That comes from me understanding where people are at, knowing their limits, even if they don't. Even if they don't have the good sense to think that, you know what, if I work you so hard that you're too sore to come back in fucking 3 days, did I really help you? Or did I give you another obstacle to overcome?
Vaush, who said that? I have no idea. Somebody said it. If you Google it, you'll probably find out who originally said it, imagine.
Catgirl kickboxing is not beta, no.
I think I saw that quote in like a Civ Builder game.
Oh yeah, we're garbage at expressing it, but there's that no empathy thing, yeah, is actually anti-autistic propaganda. Yeah, exactly, Corvus. It's like it's letting you, it's from letting like ableds define us, really. Absolutely. And if people like Vaush would start respecting that people are trying to live their lives without suffering, they wouldn't need to clarify their position either. A lot of autistic people describe themselves as hyper empaths rather than hypo empaths. And sometimes it's just so overwhelming that you can't deal with it. Like there's times where I like make myself emotionally distant from other people just because I'm actually too affected to like let down my you know, barriers.
Vaush said it? Yeah, well. Both the marble and the sculptor. I gotcha. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, Nocommentchick, of course, yeah.
Like, no offense, Vaush, but you unironically sound like my uncle.
Vaush, the best therapist I had focused...
My uncle is like probably like the most successful member of like my dad's family, and you know, he lives in the place he wants, he's got the job that he wants, he's like, you know, but he's very much a like, just start jogging 5 head kind of guy.
Undisciplined.
Like he doesn't, he can't really, like, he's actually probably the most annoying brother to have. Cause like, you know, for all that he's able to do for himself, he's not really able to, you know, understand other people and understand like where they're at, and you know how things might have been harder in ways for them. I mean, he doesn't mean to be, but he comes off as an asshole a lot, and it's a shame too because he's actually a really sweet guy.
Those therapists who just babbled, who babied me, were horribly ineffective. Yeah, I just don't know if that works. Might be time to move on. Stay mad. I do what I want. I just don't know if that works. Sympathy is important, like super, super important. But sometimes you just have to push people to do better.
Does it ever get like depressing doing like Destiny bits from like 2017?
You know? Vaush, people take statements like, it's studied that if you do X, it can improve Y aspect of your life as condemnation because IMO, people know they aren't doing enough to potentially better various aspects of their lives. Yeah, it's a defensive thing, right? When you say there's more you can do, the counterpoint to that is saying you're not doing enough. They're kind of the same thing. So when a person hears that, they're going to...
Corvus, like, probably, but,
react.
I don't think our system is great at picking it up in women.
Defensively, maybe serves. I think you're projecting, and so is chat. Really? The point is that
that was a base take. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of like overreaction on both sides.
You can't move society by saying just take responsibility.
But I mean, you've got to understand that, you know, if you fucking throw up, so like. People will call this stuff, what is it called? Like, inspiration porn or inspiration,
And many of us either have conditions or lives which make it much less easy than just be disciplined or whatever. I literally said that. Wait, no, you're the one projecting. I'm not talking about making a broad social change now. I already said earlier that social changes need to be made sociopolitically, but individually, you can't just wait on social change.
No, just the thing that he did where he's like, haha, stay mad. It's literally like a Destiny.
Change.
You know what? I could be wrong. Maybe Destiny stole it from Vaush. Actually, would I know the difference? Probably not.
That good advice, guys? Anytime you feel that society has a problem...
It's just something I'm so used to hearing Destiny, like, make that, haha, stay mad.
Just sit on your chair and like wait.
I don't know. It's the least of my concerns. But Vaush, shit, if you wanna do a Destiny impression, that's fine. You're enough of your own streamer that you don't really have to, you know.
Society to change? No. Do something. Fuck.
Toxic
Some of you
positivity.
guys act like the stereotypes of leftists as promoted by conservative self-help gurus. You know what I mean?
But you're seeing them like that. Yo, that's what's disturbing to me is that that's what you're seeing. Like, Vaush, I would say like this is a sign or a symptom of like a deep underlying conservative like cultural orientation by which you come to a, you know, reasonable political analysis, and it's like the same one that like, I mean, like we agree on the end, like, you know, goals and stuff like that, but you do come there from a different place, and like I don't think that you have to change that. In fact, maybe you shouldn't change that because maybe it makes you more effective in some ways at outreach, but I don't know. I think you should be aware of it at least.
They'll say stuff like lefties don't want...
Look, if I was, okay, just like, let's say for instance, for example, this is just a hypothetical. Let's say that at one time in my life, I was captured by the Zerg army, and like, you know, genetic experiments were performed on my body, and I became their queen, and like, you know, all this shit, and you know, just like everything, I was like part of the swarm and everything like that. You know, like, theoretically, right? And then like I'm rescued, and like, you know, to help medical help and everything, you know, to get me back to like, right, like, you know, I still might have like a little part of me that's still a little bit Zerg, you know, sometimes. And it's not a bad thing. In fact, it might actually help me in a tough time. But Vaush, you know when it's gonna fuck me over? It's when I'm not aware that I still have some Zerg in me. And I think we both, Vaush, I think we both still have some Zerg in us. The difference is that I'm aware of mine.
To take responsibility for anything. They think it's society's responsibility to change. The answer to this has always been the same. This is the objectively correct answer, by the way. If you disagree with me, then you're objectively wrong and you should leave the stream. Societal problems require societal solutions, or systemic problems, systemic solutions, whatever. But individually, you should still work to maximize your well-being within flawed systems. Everybody knows this, and everybody acts this way.
Everybody does know that. That's why it's a little bit insulting that you're saying this as like a solution. This is the part you're missing. Hey, you know that okay, you're an organism. Okay, check this out. You're an organism. Organisms want to survive. Therefore, you should maximize your chance of surviving by no. We know this, Vaush. People know this. That's not what's getting in their way. That's not what they're missing.
Okay? Everybody does. Like, come on. Imagine you're a parent, you're a mother, okay? And you live in a shit neighborhood, and your kid is going to go to a shit school where there are like 40 kids per teacher and everything's underfunded and there's a lot of instability, okay? Do you just say, whatever, my kid should be able to just go to school and get a good education.
Oh my God.
I'm not going to do anything more. That's society's problem. Or are you going to do everything you can to provide a tutor or teach them on your own time elsewise or do...
Hey, how about this, Vaush? What if you're a real mother in that situation, and instead of like this heroic narrative that you're drawing up where you're somehow able to get that child everything that anybody with a better situation would have, how about one where you fail? How about one where you come up short? How about one where despite your best efforts, you're not able to put them on, you know, parity with somebody that doesn't, that has more privilege, okay? Are you going to beat yourself up over that forever? Are you going to concentrate on what you weren't able to do for them? Or are you going to go into every day still trying to do the best that you can and recognizing that you're not playing with, you know, a great hand? That doesn't mean that you give up, okay? Fucking... you know, a 7 high can win some hands, right? But I don't think there's any reason to like hold ourselves up to standards that obviously aren't reasonable.
Everything possible to make sure your kid gets a good education. We know the latter answer is the correct one. All right.
I don't think that the mother that doesn't succeed, I don't think that the mother that doesn't succeed at doing this is a worse person than the mother who does succeed. And I think it's really important that we recognize that, okay?
It's a little concerning how many people don't want to take responsibility for their lives. Yeah, well... So smoking weed is giving up? You are a fucking moron.
I mean, that is true. Vaush said himself that he smokes weed. I'm not entirely sure what, like, behavioral change exactly he's recommending other than, like, try harder 5-head.
What's happening here?
Yo, I gotta say, Vaush, I love you, dude. But sometimes when I'm dealing with your takes, I'm like massively surprised that this is a social major. That I'm like, yeah, massively.
Shout out to everyone who fought against community advocates who demanded these resources go to investments like school counseling instead. Now robotic surveillance ground drones are being deployed for testing on low-income communities of color with under-resourced schools. Please ask yourself, when was the last time you saw next-generation world-class technology for education?
Wait, what? Oh my god. Okay, so we're not talking about this right now. This would be Irene giving into her ADHD, but instead, chat, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna choose to use my willpower to force myself not to get distracted by the interesting story that Vaush went to right after this one, and to keep ourselves focused. Now, I talked about Dr. Gabor Maté before. He's gained quite a lot of notoriety for his particular approach to addiction, which I think is definitely night and day from what, you know, the way that Vaush is looking at it here. Oh geez, this is the guy that did, after school. This guy did a Peterson video. He draws. Okay. Oh geez, this will be good. Chat, you'll love this. You're gonna like this. This is good. I mean, even though this guy's kind of a piece of shit, and he did one of these for Jordan Peterson too. I do like Vaush, so all this is a bit tough to hear. Hey, I'm not saying that Vaush is a piece of shit. I'm not saying that Vaush is like, you know, I don't know. I think that sometimes the information that we get exposed to and the narratives that we're able to create, it's kind of by chance, you know. A lot of it is just like where we like landed, where we ended up in life. You know, a lot of it isn't, you know, it's definitely not a moral, you know, question of like what did you find out about, you know, what stories did you hear, how did you put those stories together?
So an addiction is a complex psychological physiological process, but which manifests in any behavior.
Yo, I wish I could draw that well on dry erase boards. That's so good. Look at this, chat. I'm so jealous.
That a person's enjoy.
I can't even fucking, my handwriting on dry erase board sucks.
That a person enjoys, finds relief in, and therefore craves in the short term, but suffers negative consequences in the long term and doesn't give up despite the negative consequences. So craving pleasure, relief in the short term, negative consequences in the long term, inability to give it up. Now, notice I has said nothing about substances. I said any behavior. So it could be related to cocaine, crystal meth, heroin, fentanyl, marijuana, nicotine.
It's a really interesting art style.
Alcohol, whatever. Could also be sex.
I feel like there's a lot of judgment in the way that, like, it's almost like the 7 deadly sins or something. It's like gluttony, and then we got, I don't know, different kinds of drugs. Yeah, like they're trying to, the artist is almost trying to do like a physiognomy to describe the vices represented by these, which is funny because it's kind of the opposite of what Dr. Maté is saying here. But again, like I said, this is the guy that did Peterson, has done some work for Peterson too. So
gambling, internet, relationship.
And hey, you know what? I hope that if Jordan Peterson is still dealing with like addiction issues or, you know, whatever, like Dr. Maté's advice would be a great thing for Dr. Peterson to run into. I wouldn't even begrudge him if he never said anything about it and he just like held that as his little secret, that this thing that is very counter to his own perspective and advice had been immensely helpful to him in his own personal struggle against addiction. I more than anything, I just hope that people find the help that they need and, you know, are able to get where they need to go in life.
Shopping, eating, work.
That's literally what I'm here for, Chad. That's literally what I'm here for.
Extreme sports, working out, pornography, any number of human activities. So I said any behavior. Now, the official definition of addiction, according to the American Society for Addiction Medicine, is that this is it's a primary brain disorder. It arises in the brain largely due to genetic reasons. This is how they see it. And I say that's just not true. The other popular idea about addiction is that it's a choice that somebody makes, that people choose to be addicted, which is what the...
So, like, the first one, it kind of reminds me of, like, the Alcoholics Anonymous idea that, like, basically they say, if you're an addict, if you've had trouble with drugs, that's because you've got a different kind of brain. You're an addict. You're always going to be an addict. And the only hope for you to live a decent life is going to be complete cessation of any sort of... in fact, if you really, like... I've talked to AA people before that, like, apparently they have a coffee pot at an AA meeting. Like, that's one of the fixtures, is they'll always have a pot of coffee. And people are just, like, pounding that coffee, right? They drink a lot of coffee at AA. And there's some people that are kind of like, hey, I think we should limit the amount of coffee people have. You know, if we really want to talk about, like, you know, like ceasing addictive behavior, you know, we gotta talk about, like, every drug. And I don't think that anyone's ever tried to actually take away the coffee pot from an AA meeting. I think that might be disastrous if
legal system
that coffee pot may be what's holding everything together. And
based on, because if people are not choosing, what are we punishing them for? And although I think the medical definition is closer to the truth, I don't see it as it's a genetic disorder, and I don't see it as a primary brain disorder. So let me perhaps show you why, if that's okay. A human being has two fundamental needs, apart from the physical needs, in infancy, in childhood. One is for attachment. Now, attachment is the closeness and proximity with another human being for the sake of being looked after, or for the sake of looking after the other. Now, human beings, as mammals, and even birds, are creatures of attachment. We have to connect and attach,
even
because
birds.
Otherwise we don't survive.
I love the
If there's
shade
nobody
that he's
that's
throwing at birds.
motivated to take care of
birds.
us, to attach to us
Sure.
that way, and if not
We'll throw
motivated
birds in there
to
too.
attach to others, we just can't survive. One interesting thing is that the endorphins, which the body's internal opiate chemicals, which heroin and all the other opiates resemble, they help to facilitate attachment. So if you take infant mice and you knock out their endorphin receptors so they don't have endorphin opiate activity in their brain, they won't cry for help and separate from their mothers, which would mean that they would die in the wild. And which goes back to what happens early in childhood when there's stress and trauma, these endorphin systems don't develop. And then when people do heroin, it feels like a warm, soft hug to them. They feel love and connection for the first time. That's why it's so powerful. But so we have this need for attachment, without which obviously the human infant, who is the most helpless, the most dependent, the least mature of any creature in the universe at birth, cannot survive without the attachment. And that attachment relationship, given that we have the longest period of development of any creature, you know, well into adolescence and beyond, attachment is not a negotiable need.
Meow. Meow.
But we have another need, which is authenticity. Now, authenticity, out of the self, means being connected to ourselves. Just knowing what we feel and being able to act on it. So, that means our gut feelings. So, let's look at how human beings evolved. For hundreds of thousands of years, and for 100,000 years or so of this species existing on Earth, how did we live? We didn't live in cities and houses and so on. We lived out there in the wild until very recently in human existence. Now, just how long do you survive in the wild if you're not connected to your gut feelings? Not very long. If you start using your intellect instead of your gut feelings, you just don't survive. So that's a powerful survival need as well. So attachment is a survival need, authenticity is a survival need. But what happens if your authenticity threatens your attachment relationships? For example, as a 2-year-old, you get angry because you didn't get that cookie before dinner. But your parents can't handle anger because they grew up in homes when there was rageaholism and they're terrified at the very expression of anger. So they give you the message that good little kids don't get angry. The message you receive is not that good little kids don't get angry, but that angry little kids don't get loved. Because your parents are now sullen, they won't look at you, they talk to you in a harsh way, you're not getting loved. Not experiencing love at that moment. No, but you got to stay attached. Guess what you're going to suppress? The authenticity every time. And this is how we lose connection to ourselves and to our gut feelings. So that, strangely enough, that very dynamic, which is essential for human survival in a natural setting, not becomes a threat to our survival in this more modern setting, where to stay authentic is to threaten attachment. And so we give up our authenticity, and then we wonder who the hell we are, and whose life is this, and who's experiencing all this, and this life doesn't, and who am I really? And so that's where the reconnection has to happen. That's where the healing happens, is with that reconnection. But it's because of that conflict, that tragic conflict in childhood between authenticity and attachment that most of us face, that we lose ourselves and lose connection to our gut feelings. Now, this leads to the question of trauma, because it's one thing to recognize that all this originates in childhood pain. It's quite another to transform that pain. And for that, we have to understand what trauma is. So people often think that trauma is what happens to you. So trauma is a divorce when you were small and your parents fighting. Trauma is your mother's depression. Trauma is your father's alcoholism. Trauma is your parents' argumentation. Trauma is physical or sexual abuse or some loss. Those aren't the traumas. Those are traumatic. But the trauma is not what happens to you. The trauma is what happens inside you. And as a result of these traumatic events, what happens inside you is you get disconnected from your emotions, and you're disconnected from your body, and you have difficulty being in the present moment, and you develop a negative view of your world, and a negative view of yourself, and a defensive view of other people. And these perspectives keep showing up in your life in the present. So in other words, the addiction is not the primary problem. It's an attempt to solve a problem. And then the real question is, how did the problem arise? In other words, this is where
Vaush actually has the solution.
And that the addiction is an attempt to deal with the effects of childhood trauma. Which
a lot of this problem arises directly from the alienation brought on by capitalism.
It does temporarily, while it creates...
Probably not all of it. Probably some of it is generational trauma that, got handed down regardless, but...
And more problems in the long term. And so the issue is not just to recognize what happened 10, 15, 30, however many years ago, but to actually recognize the manifestations in the present moment and to transcend them. And how do you do that? By reconnecting with yourself, by restoring the connection with your body primarily, and with your emotions that you lost. And once you do, when you found these things again, then you have what we call recovery. Because what does it mean to recover something? It means to find it again. So what is it that people find when they recover? They find themselves.
So my fear, Vaush, listen,
is the essence of
okay?
trauma. So the real...
My fear is that in your attempt to, cue people into behaviors that seem in your mind, and rightly so, to be associated, with better life outcomes, that instead of what you're trying to give them, which is, I think, this reconnection, what they're going to hear is that you need to suppress your authenticity. You need to tough it up, bucko. You need to, you know what I mean? You need to live not your life, but the life that is imposed on you by this external authority, by this fucking, sky daddy or lobster daddy or fucking Irish daddy, right? If it comes to it, right? This is not bringing us back in line with our authenticity. And if there's people that have their authenticity, if they never, there are probably people who don't deal with this issue, who are able to keep their authenticity. And I think your advice is probably 100%, appropriate for them. It's like, that's the target audience, right? That's who you're thinking that you're saying this to. But in reality, even though you don't realize it, you might be saying this to a lot of people that have lost their authenticity. And that advice is actually taking them further away from that reconnection that they need to do before they can even, Vaush, have a sense of living their own life, before they can accept themselves as an end in their own. I mean, this is some really basic leftist shit here. But I mean, we don't get it automatically. And if your set of experiences didn't include this, then, you know, just consider it me trying to pay one forward. Because I was lucky enough to get this stuff. And I was lucky enough to not get turned away from my true self.
Purpose of addiction treatment, mental health treatment, any kind of healing is reconnection.
I kind of like ending on that gestalt. I kind of like that. Yeah, he does a lot of stuff. He does Alan Watts. I don't know who Brian Muraresco is, but I like the artist. It's cool shit. Again, like, you know, he doesn't. I don't know. Maybe he just does stuff for people, you know, with an audience. It's not maybe as ideological as I'm making it out to be. Oh look, here's Russell Brandon.
Gabor, Maté, thanks very much for coming on Under the Skin.
No, like, there's a lot about Russell Brand that makes me fucking cringe, but I feel like the authenticity thing is something that he gets.
You're the author. I'm telling the audience this.
I'm just kind of curious.
Author of In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts, which in itself is a sort of a Buddhist metaphor. But of course, the reason I'm so excited to talk to you, the reason that I believe you're having such an important cultural impact, is because of your rare compassion and insight into the world of addiction. Whilst yourself, you've never had a substance dependency issue, you are happy to identify as an addict of purchasing CDs, compulsive spending. Tell me, how do you define?
He's you know, he's coming at it from a place of humility. He's coming at it from a place of recognizing his own faults, and not only is he aware of those faults himself, but he's consciously doing what he can to cue his audience into the fact that he's not a perfect executor of, you know, these, like, that yeah, he's not speaking to them from a place of, you know, of a pedestal that they can't reach.
Fine addiction.
So addiction, it's a complex process, but it's manifested in any behavior that a person finds temporary pleasure or relief.
Vaush is pretty open about having a healthy family, and it really seems he's got a secure attachment. He may not get what it's like for those of us who have to navigate the issues. Yeah, like I said, I don't think Vaush does this through any sort of like antipathy or cruelty or anything like that. I don't think that's where like that comes from.
And therefore craves, but suffers negative consequences as a result of, and cannot give up despite negative consequences. So the distinguishing features are craving relief, pleasure in the short term, negative impact in the long term, inability or unwillingness to give it up. You know, those are addictions. And you notice that my addictions is.
I just want him to get it. I just want him to connect it to the, because the one thing that we're missing here, chat, that Gabor Maté talks about is that, like, in addition to having like medicinal, you know, both in terms of like mental and physical properties, like some of these plants also have sacred uses. and we have histories of interacting with these plants in certain like sacred contexts. Now, like, I'm not telling you or asking you or suggesting any way for you to view this, right? Because it could just be that it's all in your mind and you're exploring your subconscious, and that like the stories of magical beings and gods and ghosts and angels and stuff that you're reading about, like that's just you exploring your own psyche. You can play it like that if you want to. Or, you know, maybe you think that you're really contacting something outside of yourself. I don't really care. What I care is that you get to experience the story that has a happy ending for you. Okay? Anyway, that's about all I can take. I didn't realize I'd get so emotional about this. We might cover the part about addiction and spirituality, but I don't want this to spread too much. I want it to stay circumscribed to, you know, my challenge to Vaush, to incorporate these things that he might not have encountered into his thinking. So we're going to end the stream here for this. Now, don't worry, folks, because I will be back. There was a Vaush Bastiat debate, and I always cover the debates when they go down, and this debate went down, and so I'm going to take a little break. I'm going to clean myself up. I'm going to make a new thumbnail, and I'll be back for that Vaush Bastiat. So don't go too far. But yeah, I'll go ahead and put the I'll try to put the stream up there so you can like, you know, mark it and stuff like that. But yeah, we're gonna do some debate analysis, and then maybe I'll get to like flip over and do some video game after that. We'll see how long the debate takes. But anyway, I'm gonna end stream here. Thank you so much for being here, chat. Thank you for putting up with me crying and stuff. If it's an Irene debate, it's always gonna have crying and emotions. And like, I mean, like, facts may not care about my feelings, but who's to say that my feelings care about your facts? Anyway, chat, before I say anything else that's bad faith, let me go ahead and end it right here. And oh yeah, that's what we do. That's how we end it. We end it with some revolutionary Catgirl music. Meow, meow, revolutionary Catgirl music. Meow, meow, meow.
Parker Jr. Here we go with Ghostbusters.
Good night, chat.